Greetings cEDH players and welcome to a YouTube video about the Mono Green game plan. Now just to be clear, this isn't just a video about Mono Green, it's a video about the green game plan in general. You literally rephrase it and say the permanent game plan. For example, my CEDH Weatherite Captain deck, a 5-color identity deck, is a deck that is still very permanent focused. So what I'm gonna talk about inside this video will also pretty much apply to Mono Red Magda that is also very permanent focused. Like, even though this is Mono Red, it's still kinda greenish style of play, you could say. Now let's just begin by saying that the permanent game plan, the green game plan, is not really the main metagame of the cEDH format currently. You see, Grixis is the metagame. Dockside Extortionist and Undual Breach, Fastest Oracle and Tainted Pact, and of course, Ad Nauseam. You could actually say that spell slinging is kind of the metagame actually. Or well, here and there from local game store to local game store, it absolutely might be different. But still, the big boogeyman of the format is the spell slinging style. The decks that can just put Phasas and Consult into play and win from an empty board state. Green doesn't do that. Green develops a board state, usually pass turn and win the next turn. And that's what we're gonna talk about in this video, how green fits inside a metagame and how you should play it, some tips and tricks and good things to think about. A big problem with these permanent focused commander decks that are just putting a lot of permanents in play and then passing turn is that they have a telegraphed win. Everyone knows that they are going to win. For example, if you have Vannifar in play, everyone 100% knows that Vannifar wins once Vannifar gets the turn back. Or CEDH Magda, very similar too. I would like to mention that commanders like Thrasus and Bruce also have some variants to them when they are very permanent focused. Now absolutely they can win fast and efficient from a empty board state with a dockside and Emil just from their hand immediately, but there's usually a board state development as they build themselves forwards. So in the end, they are very focused permanent game plans and there are some hybrids as well. You decide for yourself where you think that your deck fits in. But let's get back to the topic, back to the problem of being very telegraphed. Truth be told, it's not much that you can do about it. You have to play that kind of gameplay style because in order to win, you need to put some value permanence into play that is building you upward towards a position where you win by usually searching out the other pieces to your combo. This is where green utilizes a lot of protections like Sylvan's Safekeeper that is gonna make them safe versus various interaction that are gonna be aimed at you. But even more popular, Veil of Summer. But another big problem that happens from this is that Grixis gets left alone. You see, when there is an immediate threat, someone that has a calculated win that everyone can see, everyone is gunning their cannons at that person with all the interaction aimed at the green permanent game plan. This means that some other Grixis deck, or well, some other deck out there, doesn't have to be Grixis of course, but some other deck that have a little bit more of a discreet win. They have the win but no one can calculatively see it, can sneak in and win after all the interactions have been consumed. So something that sometimes happens is basically that mono green or the green game plan, the permanent game plan, basically forces people's hands. And you do need to know that you are affecting the game, you're forcing people's hands. And if you do predict that some people might have interaction, forcing that person to use that interaction is removing the option of that interaction being used on someone else. I hope you understand that. In a previous deck tech video with Surreal and me, we talked about Rurik Tar, the Gruul Smash, big, developed board state, a massive power, huge stacks and enormous creatures. His big message was, shh, that you have to play quiet, calm, and discreet, and fly under the radar, or you're being interacted with. So there's actually a lot of skill in how you develop your board state forward. Let me showcase an example of how I myself have dealt with this in my cEDH deck. So in this deck, I have both a Kinnan and a Yisan, and well, Yisan is going a little bit in and out for the reason I'm gonna showcase for you here. If I have my Yisan in play, my opponents can calculate what I'm able to do. They can see that I can 100% guarantee get a Dockside in play, a Gilded Drake, a Grand Abolisher, or Derevi, or any form of combo creature that will give me a 100% win. So they always kill this. They are never touching the Kinnan, because Kinnan is random. Anything could happen. It could fizzle. And now I'm gonna say something very important. cEDH players are greedy gamblers, and you need to play the people, not the decks. And if you're presenting something that is a gamble, it could fizzle, maybe I don't win, people are usually gonna let that one go by. For example, Venota, a permanent focus deck, can usually sometimes be left alone just because this is random. I'm not saying that Venota is weak or Venota shouldn't be interacted with or the right decision is to not interact with it. I'm saying that you should interact with Venota, but I'm also saying that people just aren't. Or, well, people who've played against Venota quite a lot will do, but I think you're understanding the point I'm trying to make. So the question you should be asking yourself is, how can you become more sneaky in a green style of play with lots of permanents and lots of Gruul Smash? How can you be a ninja ogre? This is honestly the mindset you should have when you're playing Rurik Tar and every other greenish permanent style game plan deck you could think of. Now I know this is a Hearthstone picture, but I really like it. You're big, you're stompy, and you need to preserve a very low profile. You need to play against your weakness. You need to solve your weakness. You need to solve the problem of being telegraphed somehow. But remember that you should always play towards your advantage. One of the big problems with Grixis is this. Let's say that you have a Ragavan, and that Ragavan attacks against that Grixis deck, and you exile Thassa's Oracle. Now, all Grixis decks and all decks that are focused on Thassa's Oracle have other ways of winning the game, but sometimes they go, what am I gonna do now? It's just not that sometimes Ragavan exiles Thassa's Oracle. Sometimes they cast the Ad Nauseam and someone interacts with it and they've ritualed it out, they've emptied their hand size, they were all in on the Ad Nauseam, and now they need to rebuild. Mono Green doesn't have this problem, or not in the same way. The rebuild capability from the permanent green game plan is really solid. In Vanifar's case, you can recast Vanifar. Vanifar is pretty much the only thing you need to win, and the rest of the deck doesn't always matter. You can lose a little bit of pieces here and there because you have other pieces that are doing the same thing that could get you through the win. So recast Vanifar and, well, sometimes they kill Vanifar and then you recast Vanifar again. In Mono Red Magda's case, you need Clock of Omens to win the game, and if someone is destroying that, you could use Magda, only Magda from command zone, 5 treasures to get Codex Shredder, and then you can get Clock of Omens back to your hand and rebuild that way. In the case of cEDH by the Light Captain, you have so many overlapping combos that work together, so if they destroy one combo, you have more, and cards inside various combos make connections to other various combos. I can win the game with Gaia's Cradle, Derevi and Emil. I can win with Nagella and Derevi. I can win with Nagella and Esika, God of the Tree. I can win with Emil and Dockside. Just having a lot of various cards that can combine together in various ways means that if they destroy one of the cards, I just go for a different combo with the cards I already have, which is giving me a lot of resilience. But a key word I would like to use here is attrition. A huge advantage of being able to just continuously present a win con turn after turn after turn, even if you're interacted with, is enormous. That's great, because eventually you will just power through your opponent's resources. I'm sure you've heard the word attack is the best defense. By putting win cons into play every turn forces your opponents to use their tutors for interaction to prevent you from winning the game. That is preventing your opponents from trying to win the game themselves. But now I'm contradicting myself. I made a huge emphasis on being sneaky. Don't go for it always, because you might remove interaction and you might unlock a player from winning the game by removing that interaction from other players around the table. This is where you have to apply skill. I'm sorry, you actually have to be good at this game. You need to evaluate the pod throughout the game. If you should try to present a win, go for it and consume resources amongst your opponents, or if you should lean back and stay ninja. This is where stacks comes into great use. If you have creatures like Collector Oof, the mono-green staple of stacks currently in the metagame as of now, you can prevent a lot of really annoying decks out there from being able to basically play the game and prevent them from winning the game, depending on. So if you have cards like this in play, you can prevent people from being able to win the game. At the same time, you're trying to win the game yourself, preventing people from removing this and making sure they interact and consume the resources at your win instead. And then you just play that attrition game, continuously pump out more value into play, and eventually just overtake your opponent with card draw value and win with attrition. Venota is doing this really well. She's able to randomly put strange things into play, hate bear, stacks effects, things that are just locking down the game, making the game hard. She's still being very ninja-like a huge ogre, like sneaking in an army from nowhere. At the same time, forcing people to interact with Venota, removing the gun from Venota's stacks pieces, and eventually just recasting Venota over and over, attacking over and over, just getting random value over and over, will eventually lead your opponents to just sit there and crumble to dust as their resources are being depleted while yours continue. As I really like art to make the talk, this picture is really showcasing that you gotta be big, but you're gonna be stealthy. Once again, not a magic card, but I really like what this picture is showcasing, that nature, weed is just growing in on the city and consuming the city. Claimed by nature. That's exactly how you should be playing green. The green game plan, the permanent game plan, the stacks game plan, the attrition game plan, just sneaking, crawling into the pod. People don't want to be here. Your opponents don't want to be up against you. They don't want to play against your filthy, ugly, dirty stacks creatures. You're forcing them back to survival mode, forcing them to abandon their technology and live on scraps. You don't mind. You can play in that very harsh, stacksy environment that you've constructed because you are a survivor. I hope I've been able to give you a picture of what I'm talking about. But that's the key stuff, the attrition game plan, being able to just continuously pumping out value, growing, expanding, letting your leaf, your grass, your weed travel throughout the entire world, making stacks effects affect your opponent, forcing them to survive in the wilderness of your horrible environment that you've created. And then just continuously bombard them with win con attempts that they have to respond to, or they lose. Or sometimes you have to play a little bit cautious, laid back, sneaky, and develop forward randomly, and just make sure you're flying under the radar, as green is very telegraphed and calculatable, and your opponents might overreact towards you, and you definitely don't want that, especially not in the early stage of the game, where you need to develop your board state so that you can expand faster and faster throughout the match. I hope you like my video, or you found it entertaining, or maybe even inspiring. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time, guys.